Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the final segment of the Heritage Show with myself, Shakeel Garda. And it is the last Saturday of Ramadan. People are counting down now to Eid. People are hoping to still find a little Qadr because, of course, we don't know when among these nights it is. And while certain ovens are already busy baking, there's definitely a few ideas cooking, and those ideas are going to be laid out to bear this afternoon with Nabeel Jackson, a friend of mine, a fellow historian, activist, wouldn't say activist, rather say enthusiast, who I think if we all were to become more active, would be a lot less forlorn about the future of the past and understanding where we headed in terms of what those things of the past that are valuable for us that ought to be taken with us into the future are. Now, Nabil is somebody that understands the Buka lingo. He understands a little bit of the Malay language and those tributaries that came to form that language. And then of those words and phrases, what made it into Afrikaans later on, forming and shaping a community's identity at the Cape and its diaspora as well. And the month of Ramadan, as somebody who has immersed himself in a community where the spirit of Ramadan was and still is quite strong. Nabil, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Salam Media.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's not something I usually do, but let's hope I can do justice, inshallah.
Well, I hope it's not just about passing time till Buka time, but actually passing over some wisdom, which I know you have. So,
Ameen,
Nabil,
inshallah.
for those who don't know, we have a WhatsApp group called the Bichara, and maybe that's exactly where we're going to start, Nabil. What is a Bichara?
So, a bichara basically is a discussion. And I think our elders in our community will know this more. But I think the word is even less in use these days. But people, as they move from Afrikaans to English, now they would be familiar with seminar and symposiums and words like these. But our elders used to know it as bichara, and this basically meant that everyone in the community was welcome, and there was an issue that needed to be discussed. And I think we were good. It was good for us to use this term for our group, so that we are in some way still in touch with our past.
So the last time I heard the word Bichara was yesterday, actually, at the Kubus in Johannesburg, and not in Nuclear Kubus, but in Westpark Kubus, the Nuwe Kubus nogal. And
Yeah.
we were standing around a cupboard of a deceased Ibrahim Pek, Allah Arhamu, Allah grant him
Allah.
mercy, inshallah. And
Ameen.
alongside the cupboard was the son of Imam Hafiling, which is Abdul Hamid Abrams, Kittelki, and he felt that people were talking too much when the Imam was going to do the talqeen. So he said, kom, Amakisu. And he says, Muni no kom bichara baloni. And and I don't even know how many people in that Jama'ah who are too young might even know the word, but I think the essence of it was captured when it come nonsense come praat agat nie, around the cupboard when we can rather listen. If we
Ah,
understood Arabic, the talqeen would be a reminder for all of us who are actually living, as opposed to necessarily
definitely.
a speech to the deceased to whom it is addressed. So a bichara is whether it's a seminar in a gathering or a small conversation between you and I think that is captured, and those who are listening form part of that bichara. Al know and the audience. Assalamu alaikum to you as well. But anyway, the word Ramadan, speaks about the burning of something in Arabic, and and it is understood to maybe perhaps be the burning of sins, the burning of bad habits, the burning of nafs, and so on. En as daai keers uitgebrand is, dan is alles donker. But maybe there we can find ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, speaking about candles, there was a time, once upon a time, where the night of Qadr was thought to be particularly the 27th of Ramadan, based on certain authentic
Mm.
hadith that also are joined by other authentic hadith that speak about other nights. And so common folk would adhere to and practice that night in particular, which happens to be tonight in South Africa. Tell us a bit about Keres Opsteek and why and how perhaps you understand it to be, having perhaps seen it happening and maybe even still doing it. I don't know. You tell me. And speaking about the candles that I spoke about earlier, tell us about Keers Opstik and in the context of Laylatul Qadr, inshallah.
Look, I think in our context, candles is more like just an accessory in our homes, and it's no meant to dress up and scented and all of those things. But in the past, it was actually the means of light in your home, and it is also symbolic. That's what I think is the main thing to take home when it comes to Laylatul Qadr. People used to keep the candles. I never saw it. I don't think I saw it that much, even though I was a young child in Bukap when all these traditions were still active. I saw people put the candles like in a little saucer and it would burn, but I don't think I understood exactly what they were doing. And of course, this was at the end of Ramadan. And Laylatul Qadr at that time, everybody used to go in great masses to the masjid. But as I understood, what people said was that it was to indicate to your neighbors and to encourage one another to that person is going to stay up the night, is going to uphold the night of Qadr. That's the basic essence I understood from it. I understood maybe some people would see it as an innovation, but it's far from the truth.
So, I mean,
That was
Nabil, the way I understand it is that there was no lights. People wanted to
yes,
perform extra ibadah. And so to light the home, one would turn the lights on, but there ain't no lights. So we light a candle. And
yes,
because
yes,
today we do have lights, maybe people take the remnants of that old normal thing to do, which is put the lights on, and now light a candle in the memory of that. Perhaps now thinking it's particularly linked to the Qadr, but actually it's just about lights. And
yeah,
I suppose we do speak about lights being power. The word power is used to describe electricity as well. And others speak about moenie krag weggee nie. Don't give attention to the wrong things. And Ramadan is also all about that. So I think it's
mm,
all these things do tie up, especially in a time of load shedding, when perhaps you might need to light a candle on a little Qadr because it might be load shedding. But what are some of the familiar terms that you grew up surrounded by, particularly with Ramadan in mind? And we do see a excerpt of Imam Muhammad Khair um, of Dope Street Puka,
Allah
who
arham.
unfortunately I can't show it right now, but he wrote a calendar that outlines the way that people near their fasting, the way they stop eating before a certain time, and so on. Um,
Mm.
so maybe we can look. I mean, I would love to have displayed it on screen now, but if we can use that as a reference point for now, Nabil, people can always be referred to it later. But do your readings, as they say at varsity. Uh, what do we extract from there that's of significance? Because one thing is that he uses Allah Rahamu uses certain terminology that are derived from Arabic, others from Malay, then into Afrikaans, and all of them are to do with Ramadan, the fard fast of the month of Ramadan, and the arkan and shurut that go around that particular practice.
What I when I read when I saw the post first, what came to mind is, and I saw it looked like it was a handwritten calendar, and I think that was remarkable actually for the imams. It means that they were really the center point of our communities, and that's 1944. So that's not so far away. And just to show how the imams were really relied upon for this kind of thing, for to notify the people. But the few words that I could pick up, and I could see already that very few Malay was used at the time, but at least we could see the word buka, which is still used, but I see it's now people are now moving to the words like mass iftar, and it's not a problem. But I think just for us to hold on to the remnants of our tradition and heritage that we have, especially in Cape Town. Buka for us, as not for the people who have ties and who have Malay asal. Asal meaning you are a descendant from Malay forefathers. The word buka would mean to basically means to open. The full phrase is normally used is berbuka puasa. So they would say to open your puasa. So at the end of your fast, then that's that's what's implied. And puasa obviously means it refers to the fasting. It came from the old Sanskrit word which was upvas. So there's a lot of old words and but it's still in use in Malaysia and Indonesia, in Brunei and the rest of the the Malay archipelago. So those words, at least we can still tie, and it's still relevant today. Although there are some words that are quite ancient in our dialect.
So we are actually going to be able to display that calendar because
That's
Alhamdulillah,
nice.
technology makes things possible. So as soon as we are ready, then I'm going to ask my colleague of the Salam from Salam Media behind the scenes to show us the calendar
I think it's not hearing anything here.
baby.
Are we still connected?
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
You are listening to a recorded program on Salam Media. Don't forget to follow our social media handles at Salam Media for these and other quality programming. Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا وأراقي.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
We are back now, and there was a connection failure, but we are going to refer to a calendar that was drawn up in the 1940s by Imam Muhammad Hayr, who Nabeel will explain now.
وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا وأراقب الرحمن جل جلاله وتقدست أسماؤه وتعالى وأكون للوطن الحبيب مشيدا أنمى إليه وأستفيض جلالا وأراقب الرحمن جل جلاله وتقدست أسماؤه وتعالى وأكون للوطن الحبيب مشيدا أنمى إليه وأستفيض جلالا وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا وأبر محتسبا بأم وأب فاض علي محبة ودلالا وأكون في عمل التطوع قدوة وأصوغ من عزم الرجال مجال وأبر محتسبا بأم وأب فاض علي محبة ودلالا وأكون في عمل التطوع قدوة وأصوغ من عزم الرجال مجال أسمو وأجتاز السماء جلالا فأزيد أسراب الغيوم جمالا وألون الدنيا بأجمل بسمة وأكون للخير العميم مثالا فأكون بالقيم العظيمة.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are back. We are apologetic about the connection failure that has taken place. Perhaps we are connecting too much to the dunya and need to tap out. But I do apologize, Nabeel, to you especially and to listeners as well. If there is an opportunity in future to revisit this, in a better circumstances, in our studios, we'll see. But let's make do with what we have, right? So we're talking about the calendar. Imam Muhammad Khair wrote this calendar in 1940.
Four.
4. And Nabeel, you probably have it in front of you as well. So
Yes, I do.
and the listeners and viewers can now see it on the screen while we are able to read on our phones and so on. So what can you tell us now from what you see in front of you, in terms of the word buka is literally being used as the term for breaking the fast and so on. But
Yes.
if we go focus to the bottom part about Niyat van Puasa, tell us a bit about what you're seeing there.
Yes. Okay. So I think the focus is on the right hand side of the calendar,
Yes.
and if we look at just the clock alone, we'll see it says at the top it says Sa'at Iftar, which is the time of iftar, and then it's like how would I say, it's Afrikaans and Malay, and you'll see on the left hand side of the clock it says Die Horolosie, and then on the right hand side it says Van Buka. So he's basically saying this is the clock or your timepiece for Buddha. So and then it's still a bit of artwork and whatever is done there. So I think the Imams really spent some time with this. And then when he mentions then he goes below and he obviously gives you the niyat, and he says the niyat van puasa. And we can see the similarity and the connection between how the the Afrikaans version, or what people will refer to as Afrikaans Arabic, you can see then there's very much, it's so close that you can't even separate the two. But niyat, as you see there, is written in the same way as you would write it in Jawi, which is when you're using Malay. And then it obviously says van puasa. So you can see the connection between Afrikaans and Malay. It's used so, how can I say?
Interchangeably, yeah.
Yes, interchangeably, yes.
So
and then
would
it
there
goes
be
on to
any
just
people that would use the word
obviously share
puasa?
the niyat. Yes, go on.
Yeah, look, that niyat is still recited before the Fajr. I mean, the night before the day of fasting. So according to the fiqh of Imam Shafi, and so the very same wording in 1941 still being used today. I know in our era there are different calendars that get circulated from different butchers and shops and stores and so on, and there are different niyats on there, obviously, depending on because I mean all these words are khair words, good words that can be used to beseech Allah's mercy when opening and closing the fast.
Yes.
So the word puasa, would one ever hear one say puasa, or was it just puasa?
I see you looking at how it's spelled, yeah. But I've only ever heard people say puasa. I mean, people spell it differently when they in a Romanized, when they when using like English lettering.
Sure.
People would use the PWASA, or some would say, if you are familiar with Malay, then you would only use, I guess, the PUASA.
And obviously, there's no P, so there's a ba in Arabic. To denote.
That is correct, yeah. But you can see the letter there is a ya with 3 dots at the bottom, so that is the Jawi letter
P.
to pronounce the P.
Okay.
To accommodate for that P sound, yeah.
Okay. So moving away from the calendar now.
Yeah, but that's how I grew up. It was hardly for me to hear people say Ramadan. It was like normal for people to say puasa.
So look, of course,
unless in the masjid, the imam is making a dua in Arabic, then
we're growing up in an era where people speak English in mosque and so on. Last week we had a discussion about Afrikaans, but different families in different parts of the country will use the word Ramzan.
I'm losing the connection here. I'm not hearing
an
you.
Urdu inspired word that is from the Arabic, and then in the Cape you'll hear people speak about Ramadan. And
if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Nabeel. Can you hear me? I can hear you, Nabeel. I can hear you. I don't know about you. Nabeel, can you hear me? Okay, it looks like we're losing Nabeel. Yeah, Nabeel will have to reconnect. So we clearly have an issue here with regards to connection. But I'll wait for Nabeel to come. Anyway, so the word Ramzan is an adaptation from the Urdu, and I see that our guest from last week, Abdul Dayan Peterson, shared something to do with using that word. Now, obviously, we're living in a time where people obviously trying in their earnest effort to please Allah, to speak properly and to use tajweed and so on. So Dayan shared a post on his WhatsApp, on his Instagram, from Wail Al-Mahdi, who speaks about defending the Z in Ramzan, which is that one should see that there is actually a way to legitimize and defend the use of the word Ramzan instead of Ramadan, because it's okay that people would speak in their local dialects using the Z instead of the Dod. So similarly, in the Cape, we have the word Puasa, but then we also have the word Ramadan, which is mispronounced as Ramadan. Can you tell us anything about that, Nabeel? Because people associate it with something to giggle at and laugh at, and so and daar lag jy ook. But there must be some origin, and I know some ulama have potential theories about how that came about. People trying to honestly to pronounce with tajweed and so on. What do you say to that?
I can't. I know it's always been a case of to laugh at it. But I think it's the dad that, and I haven't encountered this amongst the Indian people or Arabs or anybody else. It just seems like it's an issue with the Malays. And
Malays of the Cape or Malays
um,
in the general sense?
I don't think I've come across Malays in Nusantara in the Malay archipelago, but it seems like it's something just with us here with locals.
African Malay thing.
Yeah, because
Okay, so continue with what you were going to say.
instead of saying fadila, we would say faldila.
Mm.
And
So,
I think it's
Sheikh
probably
Jamil Abrams, who obviously I don't have with us right now, he said that perhaps in an earnest to pronounce the word and in an incorrect pronunciation of the lam, the letter lam, in Arabic, one would go to the same part of the mouth to find that letter, and dan kom dit uit Ramadan and Maraldiya and Faldila and so on. Potentially, I don't
yes,
know. What
I
do you
think
think?
I was going to get to that, and I think he's correct in saying that it's a case of
Okay.
pronunciation and how they are shaping their mouths and things like that, or let's say the makharij.
So I mean,
Somebody's
I
familiar with
think
that.
the spirit of the show is really to celebrate the way people actually are, not how they ought to be, and we can get to that. I mean, but that language is there and it's to be enjoyed and to be part of knowing one another. Part of Allah's creating us in different nations and tribes is that we know one another and not know one another and then like scoff. Actually, say you know what, that's quiet and that's nice and that's what Allah vir julle gemaak het and so. But not to necessarily purify and make skoon, because what we'll be doing then is doing the work of the Afrikaner nationalists in making skoon Afrikaans and then deleting and editing all the cool things that come with it from our forebears, that being the people of color from various parts of the world. So Ramadan is almost at an end, Nabeel. What are some of the things that you are grateful for that exist from the past and are currently still being upheld, that you can say are attributed both to Islam and tradition, and that should be perpetuated in your opinion?
Look, I think one of the greatest or the things that made kids excited in the Puasa was, when it came to buka time, then that they would send around the buka bochi. Now, I know that in our times it's a bit different, but we would have a special lappy. The elder people would have a particularly embroidered, should I say, cloth that would cover the plate, and they would use a beautifully designed plate that has golden trimming on. And I remember Yaya in the road that she always had these plates with red roses and things on like that. So people were very particular about how they sent their cookies to their neighbors, what they were sharing with them for buka. And I think it added to the reverence of sharing that little whatever it was. Sometimes it's just a few dates. It doesn't really matter. I think the essence was around sharing, and that is what the Nabi have encouraged. That we share with the person who's also going to make sure that the person who's fasting, your neighbor, whoever it is, that you share with them, and you'll share in the ajr of their fasting.
Correct. So I was about to get there. I mean, it's not just about having a lekker buka or buka lekker, like enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's the ajr, which is the that you pass on and you share in the reward of what the fasting person, without depleting their reward, you also share in the reward.
Definitely.
And what better thing to share than the mercy of Allah's upon those who are fasting. So I struggle now because I have noticed that people are becoming very fancy when it comes to Labarang and Eid and what they give, but I can't also fault that when that's pretty much also how things were being done back in the day by people that thought very highly of Ramadan and thought very highly of their neighbors. So we as ons om nie iets mooi te stuur aan onze neighbors en onze vrienden en familie kom die einde van die maand van Ramadan as dit by Labarang kom. Because although I do feel like expenses are really high and skyrocketing and so on, but maybe there are ways to do it in a cost-effective way and not just send a paper plate or something across the road.
Yeah,
Nabil,
no.
can you remember any time where maybe you guys broke stuff while you were supposed to carry it over the road? Or because I mean, if it's glass and like I'm sure the cobble streets, and not only the cobble streets, but I mean, Boekap isn't exactly a very flat place, and die mense is ook nie so plat nie. So you'll get, well, maybe the people are plat and you'll get sworn at or scoffed at for breaking the things, but maybe you can tell me, I don't know.
There were times when we used to carry like 3 or 4 plates at once, like especially when the elders in the road, they didn't have any more younger people in the house, so they'd want anyone in the road that is free just to come around, and then they would give you like 3 or 4 plates to send to the neighbors. Sometimes it falls, but nobody really bothers. They just say it's okay, just come back, and I'll give you another kabochi and club, and they'll carry on with that. But the essence at the time of Buka, the spirits were too high for anyone to still, want to scold at you for anything that went wrong like that. Because
no, well, that's very good, because often people associate Ramadan with working on each other's nerves and being a test for one another. But then, as people on Twitter today say, to distinguish between what is nafs and what is you and what's shaitan, and you know what I mean, the sabab of all your problems. Perhaps it's good to hear that you can't really recall having been shouted at for perhaps.
No, I just wanted to add something.
Yes.
The thing about Buka was also that it became such a how can I say, the atmosphere at Buka time was so special that even the Christian neighbors we had, even they wanted to partake in it, like the children especially. They would also come around and ask in their help. So they would go to, like, Yaya was a very elderly woman. She and Auntie Waya and Boo, they were elderly people. So naturally they would go over and like the guy's name was Mario. He would change his name to Marwan, and they had a kufia ready for him and a top and
Het hulle 'n
everything.
doopmaal gehad ook vir hy?
To be honest now, I think it's either him or his brother who became Muslim.
Okay.
So, tradition, we think it's tradition, but it actually becomes so part of people that they see the beauty in what's happening.
But I
So,
mean, today we live in a social media world, so we might not physically see someone going across the road, especially not in the suburbs, right? But you still
it
have
still
friends
happens,
hitting
yeah,
you up
actually.
on social media and saying, "Hey, when is Booba night?" And did I miss it? And can I have the recipe and so on? Or can I have some? And then people will fetch it and drop it off and so on. And if they don't want it, they remember having it, or they would like to have it. And so it's not about necessarily embracing Islam, but embracing Islam as a spirit and as a atmosphere and a mood and a lifestyle for the month. And
It
the
definitely
things
is.
taste lekker. I mean, let's admit it, Nabil. So, what sort of things would one find on a bochi?
Yeah, there's a range of things, no? I think let's start at if we look at the Attapel cookies, and then you get the Millie cookies. There was Pampun cookies, and then of course you get the range of samosas and the spring rolls and dalchis. Oh, let's not talk about the dalchis. There's so many kinds. In our road, I think we had women that we used to call dalchi queens, because they competed with the way that their dalchis tasted, and it was so quite if I can recall, then we used to have this huge thing on the table, this huge glass thing that had sections on it, and there would be probably like 4 or 5 types of dalchis at each night, because we had a whole road of people, so there's like 13 or 14 people sending things around. So the variety of things is and of course then you get the flapjacks and the pancakes and what did I miss? Kusistas.
So there was clearly never a dull moment, Nabil.
Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment.
So if you if you can recall some of the munayats and so on that you heard, and munayat comes from the word munajat, which is an intimate discourse between ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course celebrations for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam during the month of Ramadan, prior to the Fajr Adhan, prior to the Isha Adhan. in a spirit of extra discourses, extra remembrance, extra conversation with Allah. Maybe if you have a lagu, I don't know if you do, Nabeel. Maybe we'll find out soon. But
You
what
putting
can
me
you
on a
recall in
spot,
your Obuta lagu that reminded you of Puasa, that sounded like Ramadan?
Look, I mean, there you can see that actually on that calendar, he says there, this is one of the du'as that they used as a munayat. It says the du'a as Ramadan ankum. And then he says, Allahumma sallim li Ramadan. So, Allahumma sallimna li Ramadan. وسلم رمضاننا وسلم أمورنا. So that is one of the du'as that you would normally hear in the masjid, especially at the beginning of Ramadan.
And what is it saying there that it means?
In my basic translation, it is, oh Allah, protect us. Allahumma sallimna li Ramadan. I think it is asking Allah to protect Ramadan for us in a way that we uphold it. That's my basic understanding of what it would mean. Wasallim Ramadan, wasallim umurina, and Allah asking Allah also to protect and preserve your life.
Longevity and so on.
Obviously asking for to Allah to extend it so that you can meet Ramadan, for many, many years coming.
Inshallah. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the final chapters of Ramadan as it is, that considers the last few nights of Ramadan, how that is spent, how that was spent, how that is currently being spent, and how Nabeel's going to be spending it as well, and maybe how much Nabeel's going to be spending on us, maybe if his pockets are deep. But that'll be after the break, inshallah, when we come back. So don't go away.
The Heart and Stroke Foundation, as part of a healthy diet, this blessed month, give your family the best with Sunfoil, because tradition just tastes better.
This Ramadan, join hands with Muslim hands to make a meaningful difference in the lives of millions worldwide. Your zakah and sadaqah can be the lifeline for those in need. Together we can nourish the hungry in South Africa and across the globe, offer clean water to impoverished communities, empower women with sustainable livelihoods, and bring relief to families grappling with the aftermath of natural disasters and conflict. Be their beacon of hope today. Connect with us at muslimhands.org.za or dial 021 633 6413 to extend your support.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Millions of Syrian children have been forced to flee their homes. Every day is a struggle surviving. Tell me, how long can this carry on? So much pain you carry up on your shoulders, far too much to carry alone. This ummah is one body. We're here to help you carry the load.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we are back with the final segment of this heritage show with Nabeel Jackson. So Nabeel, ons is amper by die einde van die maand van Ramadan. What that means for you as a person that reflects deeply on the past and I suppose on one's inner state as well. How do you feel? How do you tie in the past with the future? And what are some of the things that you can maybe pass on to us as younger people than yourselves? Not that you are very old, but something, any pearls of wisdom.
Astaghfirullah. I'm not old, man. Come on.
Say Jai Masu.
My wife tried to keep me young, so I guess so. Look, I think in Cape Town, I don't know about the rest of the world, but the pujis that we find in our masajid, it really, if you are someone that attends, the masjid for tarawih, wherever you are, the puji is something that connects you with such an emotional connection to this month that after the month you feel it, and especially when they do the munayat at the end of the month, when they do the al-wida, people cry. You see people, they crying and in the masjid, especially the elders, and so it definitely will be missed because it won't be happening every day any longer. People won't be standing for that Qiyamul Layl. Although some masajid have it, they try to uphold it at month ends and things like that, but it's not the same. The Puasa has its own atmosphere. And so normally when people come to the end, they try to exert themselves. You'll find many people go into a lot of dhikrs and nakhsala, as we used to call it. I know it's called Qiyamul Layl now, but we used to always call it nakhsala. And I think it used to be longer. Now people have it just 1 hour. And I think it's considerate because of the way of people working these days. Almost everyone in a household has to work. So it's considerate of that. But in the past, nakhsala was 2 hours, and then you still had extra dhikr with it. And then at times on the weekends, they would have the nakhsala starting at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you would stay right until sawah, or sahur or sehri, whatever you want to call it. So it's changed a lot. I know there are some masajid that will hold longer programs than others, but for most you'll see it's like just 2 hours and then it's done.
Nabil, when you speak, and I'm fortunate enough because of the masjid that I frequent to still hear the Al-Wida and so on. Abdul Jabbar Bumgard, a friend of mine, he learned the Al-Wida, and he sounds very much like the grandfather that he very for a short time, I think, grew up in front of, because I don't think their lives overlap for a very long time with Ajis Domingo. But the greeting of the month, and people say, hoe kan jy 'n maand groet? Is amper of jy dit nou wegsê. But it's not like that, I mean, it's not like that. And I think that that there are times and places for different things. Islam is very much cognizant, or makes us cognizant of those things. And so and even the way you spoke now, it actually touched me, because I do feel that every Ramadan is different. It has its different barakah. This year has been shorter days. The weather's been good. Ons verklein nie by mekaar nie. We find time to dedicate to shows like this and to picharas like this and so on. And I'm sure everybody here will reflect differently on how they spend their time, but also how they can still spend their time. And I think that's the point, is that even that very last little minute of Ramadan that exists is of value. And so we don't need to lament if we are not done with our mission yet, at least for the month of Ramadan, because ons weet nie wanneer gaan ons weer die maand sien nie. And
Definitely.
so speak to us a bit about what happens towards the end of Ramadan, looking for the moon and looking for something like to eat and prepare and so on, because at the very, very end of that tears that you release comes the joy of Eid. And so a mens mag nie lament en huil en sad wees op Labarang nie, because that goes against the very essence of it. So it's almost like Allah says to us, listen, come get over it now. you need to be merry now, because not merry as in Merry Christmas, but be merry, be happy. And Imam Malik Johannes at Basman Masjid, he used to speak about certain things that Allah would have permitted if they were not impermissible, because Eid must be so happy and so good, So and I mean, he was one Imam that could make Eid seem so exciting, because we would be released out into the dunya after Eid Salah, after being cooped up in there for a long time. But because he made it something that you look forward to, and what can you look forward to and remind us of enclosure soon, Nabeel, of as Eid approaches us?
So I think there's a few things. So people would they obviously always considering the outfits for Labarang. Labarang being the Malay word for Eid. So people were always worried about how they were looking, and I think the elder people, the suits was the main thing. In some people wore the skate kufias. My opa used to make those skate kufias, so we naturally had a different color of skate kufias, like almost every Labarang. It's only now that he's he's bedridden, so Allah grant him ease. For that. But yeah, and others would wear the red, the kwas kufia, and others would wear the depending on if you are a haji, they would wear the kufia with a little turban on it. So I think that is part of the hype. And in Bukap, people began painting their houses. It's become such a norm that even now where I live, I don't live in Bukap at the moment, and it's which is sad for me. But people still, a lot of people, even in the area, they have family in Bukap, and even they still paint their homes. It's like it becomes such a tradition, as if you're welcoming, Labarang.
Is that still happening now, Nabeel, in Bukap?
Yes. I'm sure if you took a drive around Bukap now, you'd see that. Because our neighbors, even if they were touching up just little things, there were people always painting.
I always find it amazing that it's hard to tell wie het and wie nie het nie, because people all go out of their way to bring this month, welcome the month, and then greet the month, and then welcome Eid. And it's hard to know who has and who doesn't have, because people make things so special. And I think it's part of the gratitude of the believer to be among the shakirin, those who are grateful, to do that. And I encourage myself and listeners to do that, and go out there and make it special in whichever way. And I will definitely check myself when I consider things to be too flamboyant and extravagant, because it might not be in the old school way, but people have come up with new ways of being quiet and being fancy and being in the spirit of spending what they have and being grateful to Allah. But Nabeel, it's almost time to greet you. So any final comments to wrap up everything that has been discussed this afternoon?
It's hard. It's Ramadan. I think people need to hold on to tradition and try to connect more with people in this month, because this month is a lot about. It is about yourself. It's about your personal connection to Allah, but it's also about community. That explains, the sadaqah, tul fitr, and you'll see a lot of people even during the month giving a lot of sadaqah. So. That is one of the main things that this month strives to do for us, that we think about others, we become selfless. And also, obviously, the main thing, one of the main things is the connection to the Quran. Even if we cannot recite, at least we must listen to it. So I will encourage men to even to bacha. It doesn't matter how you circling to ayah, just bacha as because you are rewarded for every effort that there is. That is how high this kalam of Allah is. That we, no matter how you circle and how little you bacha, Allah sees that effort. So we must strive to connect and keep that connection up even after Ramadan, inshallah.
And may every harf stand as testimony for our efforts, inshallah.
Ameen. Ameen.
And so with that, I actually bid not only Nabeel, and now here's the froggy throat coming. not only Nabeel, but this very show for Ramadan at least, by Islam and a goodbye and a good farewell and so on.
Alaikum salam.
Because because I mean, I don't know who listens live and who listens later on, and maybe you can share the link like a barakat. I don't know, but please do that. And we'll be back. Hopefully, I don't know. Myself and Salam Media need to have a little discussion after this about where this is going, because I was starving myself off radio for a long time, and now I'm back and I'm actually enjoying it. And alhamdulillah, I think some people are, at least those who have
Doing
been
a good
saying
job. Doing a great job.
And yeah, so alhamdulillah, and I really appreciate the feedback that you have given and others as well. And next time we need to have the rest of the chayas from the bichara, the faces that make up our group, to be part of this, inshallah. And then you'll hear the battle of the Lagos, because it's Gauteng and it's Cape Town and it's whose boober is better and all of that. But Nabeel and all the listeners and the team at Salam Media, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And may Allah count in our favor the rest that we continue to do before this month comes to a close. And I thank the Auntie Nazrin and Auntie Domingo in particular for hosting me this afternoon, because I'm in the house and I'm very, very happy and privileged to be doing this in their home, alhamdulillah. So without any further ado, I bid all of you farewell, and puasa lekker, buka lekker, and hou mooi labarang, inshallah. May Allah protect you and your family and your iman and taqwa as you progress forward with shaitan on the loose. The rejected one, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.